Okay, so ever found yourself like right in the thick of a massive crowd, like maybe a concert or, I don't know,
Right.
a political rally, even a packed stadium, you know?
Yeah.
You could just feel that energy, right? Everyone buzzing, waiting for something to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now imagine like actually being responsible for making sure that energy doesn't go completely off the rails.
Right.
That's the world of a crowd controller. And let me tell you, it's way more than just, hey, everybody step back from the stage.
It's a lot more nuanced than people think.
Totally. Which is why we are diving deep today, thanks to your request,
Yeah.
into what it really takes to navigate that world. We're talking controlled chaos, people.
That's a good way to put it.
So we've got our hands on Crowd Controller, the complete career guide, which, by the way, is packed with awesome info.
Really good stuff in there.
But here's where things get really interesting. We're also looking at something called RoleCatcher. Imagine, like, AI stepping into the hiring ring, but not for, your typical coding gig.
Yeah, this isn't your usual Silicon Valley thing.
Not at all. Turns out, even crowd control is feeling that whole algorithm heat.
It's true. It's changing the game.
So buckle up, because we're about to see how a career path that's like all about real-world action, is getting a serious digital age makeover.
It's pretty fascinating, actually. The contrast there is what makes this so interesting.
For sure. So when we think crowd controller, we tend to picture, well,
The big imposing figures.
exactly.
Right.
And while that might be part of it, this crowd controller guide, it paints a way more nuanced picture.
Oh, absolutely. It's much more complex than just, being physically imposing.
Right. So like I'm picturing a massive music festival, thousands of people. What's the day-to-day for a crowd controller in that kind of environment?
You've got to be incredibly adaptable. I mean, this guide really hammers home that fact. Every single day, every single event is different.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not like you're in some climate-controlled office, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with huge crowds, unpredictable situations, potential security risks. I mean, you name it. Spilled drinks, lost kids.
Lost kids. Wow.
It happens, and the mental stamina required for that, it's seriously underestimated.
Okay, so you're not just the security presence. You're part-time psychologist, part-time detective, part-time babysitter.
Pretty much. And all while, navigating a sea of humanity.
Exactly. And that's got to be where, like, communication, both verbal and nonverbal, becomes super crucial.
This guide really emphasizes that. A huge part of this job is reading the crowd.
Oh, interesting.
Like sensing those shifts in mood, identifying potential problems before they even happen.
Wow.
Almost like having a sixth sense for when things are about to go sideways.
Which makes me think about RoleCatcher. If even applying for these jobs is getting filtered through AI, how does that play into the skills a crowd controller actually needs?
Now that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's not enough to just have those skills anymore. You have to be able to showcase them in a way that even an algorithm can recognize.
Yo.
And honestly, I think that's something most people don't even consider.
So before you even, like, wrangle your first mosh pit, you're already in this digital dance-off with an algorithm. I'm guessing that's where understanding how something like RoleCatcher works, like, becomes essential.
Absolutely. We need to unpack how these systems analyze your experience, what keywords they're looking for, because, if you're not speaking your language, all those amazing real-world skills
Fun.
completely lost in translation.
It's like the AI is the bouncer at the club, right?
Right.
And your resume needs the right moves to even get past the velvet rope.
I like that analogy. That's good.
But let's say, you do get your foot in the door thanks to, like, your algorithm-approved skills and all that.
Right.
What's the trajectory look like? Is it just one long mosh pit? Or is there, like, actual room to grow in a crowd control career?
You'd be surprised. I mean, this guide, it lays out like a whole career ladder. Yeah. You might start as like a crowd control assistant, learning the ropes.
Right.
Maybe managing entry points at a venue, or like monitoring crowd flow. Basic stuff, but get this.
Okay.
You can work your way up to actually designing crowd control strategies for massive events.
Ooh.
Talk about a high-pressure puzzle.
So you go from holding a flashlight to, like, holding the blueprint for, like, this massive event to make sure it's safe and successful.
Yep.
That's wild. It makes sense, though, because, I mean, crowd dynamics, those change so much depending on the venue,
Oh, absolutely.
the type of event, even the weather.
Huge factor. And that's where, like, this whole lifelong learning thing comes in, which this guide, it really emphasizes.
Okay, yeah.
You've got certifications to think about, first aid, crowd control management.
Important stuff.
Because let's face it, situations can escalate fast.
Speaking of, let's talk about those, like, practical skills.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here specifically?
Yeah.
Because reading a crowd, that sounds cool and all,
Right. It's a little vague.
but what does that actually entail?
Okay, so imagine you're at a concert, right? Big concert. The band plays like this super high energy song. Suddenly, the mosh pit, it intensifies.
Yeah.
A good crowd controller, they can spot the difference between like someone who's just having a good time
Right.
and someone who's about to, start a fight.
Oh, wow.
And that's where de-escalation techniques, those become absolutely crucial.
Okay, so like verbal judo,
Exactly.
talking someone down from like a potentially volatile situation.
That's it. It's about remaining calm. You're projecting authority, but without like being aggressive.
Right. And it's knowing like the right things to say.
Yeah.
And how to say them.
It's a real art.
It is. And, if you think back to RoleCatcher, they actually flag things like conflict resolution training, stuff like that, as really valuable skills for this exact reason.
So even the AI recognizes that. Like a cool head under pressure, that's a huge asset.
Big time.
But let's talk certifications for a sec. I'm guessing first aid, that's not just about treating a paper cut in the security booth, is it?
No, not at all. Think about just the sheer volume of people at some of these events.
Yeah, it's intense.
Medical emergencies, they happen. Someone faints from the heat. Someone have an allergic reaction. And guess what? You're often the first responder on the scene.
Oh, wow.
Those certifications, suddenly, they become very real. Very quickly. Okay, so you're not just there for crowd control. You're like potentially part of the chain of survival for someone.
Exactly.
And that just adds this whole other level of responsibility to this job.
And stress. This guy, it doesn't shy away from that. The emotional toll this job can take is real.
Yeah, I bet.
Long hours, irregular shifts, dealing with people who are, maybe intoxicated or just difficult. It takes a certain kind of personality, I think, to really thrive in that environment.
It's like being in a pressure cooker,
Right.
but like a pressure cooker of people.
Yes, exactly.
You need the stamina to deal with like the physical demands, the mental agility to like make split-second decisions.
Oh, yeah, you've got to think on your feet.
And the emotional resilience to just
Right.
deal with the unexpected,
It's a lot.
all while, making sure everyone else is having a good time.
And that's where it gets really interesting,
Yeah.
because this job, it's as much about like facilitating a positive experience as it is about maintaining order. It's that balance between safety and enjoyment.
It's like you're conducting this massive orchestra, but it's human energy.
Yeah.
Too strict, and you kill the vibe.
Right.
Too lax, and, well...
Chaos. Which, actually, that highlights something really important from the guide. Crowd controllers, they don't just react. They set the tone.
Oh, interesting.
They have a huge influence on the overall atmosphere of an event.
Which makes me think, like, you could be the most qualified person, skills-wise, right?
Right.
But if you don't have the right temperament for this kind of work...
You're not going to last very long. It's definitely not for everyone. The guide, actually, it touches on that. It emphasizes, like, emotional intelligence.
Oh, that's huge.
Being able to empathize with people, even when, honestly, they're being difficult.
Because let's face it, not every interaction is going to be like sunshine and rainbows out there.
No.
You're going to encounter folks who are, intoxicated, frustrated, maybe even looking for trouble.
Absolutely. And that's where I think things get really interesting, like from an ethical standpoint.
Oh, for sure.
Because the guide, it talks about the use of force, obviously, as a last resort, right?
Right.
And the importance of understanding those legal boundaries. You're constantly making these judgment calls in the moment.
Independence.
And those decisions, those can have serious consequences.
Which takes us back to that whole idea that this job, it's not just about physical presence, right?
Not at all.
It's about having the mental clarity to assess, like, okay, what's actually happening here? Can I de-escalate?
Yeah.
And only use force when there's literally no other option.
Exactly. And even then, I mean, we live in a world where everybody's got a camera phone.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
One wrong move
Goes viral.
Exactly. Damaging your reputation, maybe even leading to legal action.
It's a lot of pressure. So, like, what kind of person thrives in that environment?
Well, based on this guide and, what we talked about with RoleCatcher,
Yeah.
seems like the ideal candidate, it's almost like this fascinating paradox, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's both physically capable,
Right.
but also, like, emotionally intelligent.
Wow. The best of both worlds.
Right. Someone who can stay calm under pressure, make those tough decisions, and command authority, but without being aggressive.
That's a rare combination.
It is.
Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. The challenges you wouldn't expect, the skills, how AI is even changing the hiring game.
It's wild.
Any final thoughts for someone listening who might be, thinking, hey, a career in controlled chaos? Maybe that's for me.
Well, I'll say this. If you're looking for a predictable 9 to 5, this ain't it.
Nope.
But if you thrive on challenge, if you want a job that really is both, like physically and mentally engaging, and if you genuinely care about creating a safe and, enjoyable experience for other people, then yeah, a career in crowd control, that might be the perfect fit.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So we explored the skills, the challenges, honestly, just the sheer awesomeness of a job that I think often goes unnoticed.
Sure. People don't realize.
It's a career path that honestly, it demands respect, not just for the physicality, which obviously that's a big part of it,
Yeah.
but for the mental and emotional strength it takes to navigate that world, the unpredictable world of large crowds.
It's a wild ride.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one, orchestrating the energy of thousands,
Yeah.
making sure everyone has a safe and unforgettable experience.
That's a great way to put it.